Ladies and gentlemen, there will be times in life when you must walk alone. No applause, no encouragement, no visible support. Just you, your vision, and the road ahead. This path, though silent and solitary, often leads to the greatest transformations. Walking alone is often misunderstood in our society, where togetherness and community are constantly emphasized. From a young age, we are taught to seek companionship, rely on teamwork, and surround ourselves with others for support. While these values are important, they can sometimes overshadow the powerful truth that choosing to walk alone requires immense courage. It takes a strong heart to stand by your own decisions, to walk away from what no longer serves you, and to continue forward when no one is clapping or watching. Walking alone doesn't mean you're broken or unwanted. It means you are brave enough to trust your own path, even when it's not lined with encouragement. When you decide to walk alone, you're choosing to face challenges with only your own determination as fuel. There's no safety net of group approval, no external force to lean on during difficult moments. This makes the journey harder, yes, but it also makes you stronger. Every step you take alone builds your endurance and sharpens your instinct. You learn to listen to your inner voice, to rely on your judgment, and to stand tall in your truth. It is in solitude that the most profound growth happens. Not because you have to survive, but because you choose to evolve without needing validation from others. In times when others hesitate, conform, or wait for the crowd to move, the person who walks alone becomes the trailblazer. They are not bound by the limitations of groupthink or peer pressure. They move forward on their terms, and their progress is defined by purpose, not popularity. The strength it takes to walk alone lies in the ability to keep going without applause, to believe without evidence, and to remain steady even when the ground feels uncertain. The world may not always understand such people, but it is often those who walk alone who achieve what others only dream of. Moreover, choosing to walk alone is an act of independence and self-trust. It demonstrates that you are not afraid to be misunderstood, not afraid to be seen differently, and not afraid to forge your own identity. This kind of strength cannot be borrowed or taught. It is cultivated in the quiet moments of self-discovery, in the long hours of solitude, and in the persistent faith that your journey matters, even if no one else sees it yet. Walking alone demands that you carry your own light, and that light over time becomes powerful enough to guide not only yourself but others who one day walk the same path. Solitude has a way of stripping away the layers we wear to fit into society, the masks, the pretenses, the distractions that often cloud who we truly are. When we are alone, there is no one to impress, no social performance to maintain. It is just us facing ourselves. This moment of raw honesty is often uncomfortable at first because it forces us to confront our flaws, our fears, and the aspects of ourselves we try to ignore. But within this discomfort lies a rare opportunity, the chance to know ourselves deeply. Without the noise of others' opinions, we begin to understand what we value, what we believe, and what we stand for. As we spend time alone, Because the fairness will become the foundation for self-respect and self-confidence. When you know who you are when no one is watching, they will play all time and some belief. When we know who you are when no one is watching, you build a sense of identity that is rooted in truth, not external validation. Solitude also tests our discipline. Without anyone pushing us forward or holding us accountable, we must become our own motivators. This reveals our capacity for self-leadership. Do we waste our moments in escape, or do we use them to grow? That choice defines us. Finally, experiencing culture impact via tangible connection. Rather, we are whole even in its absence. Finally, Solitude build emotional independence. When we learn to thrive alone, we become better prepared to engage in relationships and communities from a place of authenticity and strength. Solitude, then, is not emptiness. It is the space where our truest character is formed. Throughout history, many of the world's most influential thinkers, creators, and leaders began their journeys not in crowds or on stages, but in isolation. Greatness often begins in a quiet room with a single person daring to think differently, to question the norm, and to imagine what others cannot see. Solitude provides the space to explore original ideas without interruption, and to create. It is here that innovation is born. Yet, when distractions are removed and the expectations of others fade, a person is free to focus entirely on their vision. Whether it's a writer crafting their first manuscript, a scientist chasing a radical hypothesis, or an entrepreneur dreaming up a new way to solve a problem, their initial steps often take place away from the world's gaze. This is the sacred space where inspiration meets discipline, where the initial spark is nurtured into a flame. The absence of noise allows the dream to form its own shape, untouched by criticism or praise. It is a deeply personal process, one that requires faith in the unseen. What solitude gives is not just creative freedom, but also the resilience needed for great work. When you start something new in isolation, you quickly learn how to face obstacles without immediate help. You must rely on your inner resources, your determination, your belief, your willingness to continue despite setbacks. This process builds the foundation for greatness, because those who walk through fire alone often emerge with a strength that is unshakable. Their accomplishments are not dependent on approval, but are driven by passion and persistence. Moreover, the fruits of this solitary journey are often what later inspire the world. The greatest movements, inventions, and philosophies did not begin with applause. They began with solitude, with someone choosing to listen to the whisper within rather than the noise outside. Their quiet start, though unseen by others, becomes the seed of something much bigger. The truth is, greatness does not require an audience at the beginning. It requires belief, discipline, and the willingness to walk alone long enough to turn vision into reality. When we distance ourselves from the noise and influence of others, we begin to see things more clearly about the world, about our direction, and most importantly, about ourselves. Walking alone offers a mental and emotional space that is often clouded in group settings, where competing ideas and voices pull us in different directions. In solitude, we are no longer influenced by what others think we should be doing or how fast we should be going. This independence allows us to take a step back, reflect, and reassess where we are headed and why. Clarity is not just about seeing the path. It's about understanding why you are walking it in the first place. Without the pressure to conform or meet others' expectations, we begin to make decisions that are truly aligned with our inner compass. We are no longer choosing based on trends, popularity, or outside validation, but based on what feels purposeful and meaningful to us. This shift brings a deeper sense of fulfillment, because the path we follow is no longer borrowed from someone else's vision. It is uniquely ours. And that just be even more is an intentional and more grounded in personal truth. It is a billiard, a kriya. It's Clarity also emerges in the silence of solitude, when we are able to observe our thoughts without judgment or interference. We begin to understand our patterns, our fears, and our hopes in a more honest way. It's in this self-observation that we uncover the blind spots we couldn't see when distracted by others' opinions. Questions that once confused us. This internal insight becomes a powerful guide, helping us move forward with sharper focus and greater emotional awareness. Furthermore, walking alone teaches us to slow down and listen, not just to ourselves, but to the subtle messages life sends us along the way. In a world obsessed with speed and constant movement, solitude encourages stillness. And in that stillness, we often find answers that hurried living never reveals. We become more in tune with our surroundings, more receptive to intuition, With each step taken alone, the fog begins to lift, revealing a path that is not only clearer, but also more deeply aligned with who we truly are. Solitude, though often perceived as empty or lonely, is one of the most profound and enriching teachers life offers. When we are alone, we are placed in a unique classroom where the subject is ourselves. The lessons are drawn from our thoughts and actions, and the tests come in the form of personal challenges. Unlike traditional forms of learning, solitude does not offer textbooks or structured lectures. Instead, it provides raw, unfiltered experiences that challenge our perspectives, beliefs, and emotional stability. It forces us to sit with discomfort, to wrestle with our own thoughts, and to discover meaning in silence. This type of learning is deep, internal, and transformative. One of the greatest lessons solitude teaches is self-centeredness. In moments of aloneness, we begin to understand our habits, our emotional triggers, and the motivations behind our choices. There are no distractions, no people to blame, and no one to impress. This uncluttered environment acts like a mirror, reflecting back who we are. When no one is watching, through this reflection, we identify what truly drives us, what we fear, and what we must change. Solitude provides us with the rare chance to unlearn what society may have imposed and relearn what genuinely resonates with our inner values. Another essential teaching from solitude is self-discipline. In these quiet moments of small daily efforts, the value of consistency, and stay committed to our goals without external pressures. The value of understand the importance of small daily efforts. The value of understand the importance of small daily efforts. The value of consistency, and the result a constant evaluation, and the role of patience. Solitude teaches us that true progress is often made not in grand moments of recognition, but in the quiet hours when no one is watching and we still choose to keep going. Lastly, solitude nurtures emotional maturity and inner peace. And then to enjoy our own company, to understand the difference between being alone and feeling lonely. Rather, yunda yeni season, yenis is indecision, is it? It hits to be assisted with assistance, and we delinium. Solitude teaches us how to listen to ourselves, to nature, to our surroundings. And through this listening, we gain wisdom that no conversation or crowd could ever offer. The lessons we gather in these moments become guiding principles for how we live, love, and lead. Walking alone inevitably brings moments of doubt and fear. Without the comfort of others to reassure us or validate our choices, we begin to question our path, our abilities, and our purpose. These internal challenges can feel overwhelming, especially in moments of uncertainty or failure. However, it is precisely in these moments that resilience begins to form. When we push forward despite the fear, and when we quiet the voice of doubt through action, we slowly train ourselves to be mentally tougher. This resilience is not something that appears overnight. It is earned step by step in the lonely hours when continuing seems harder than quitting. Being alone means you face your fears head on. There is no distraction to numb the discomfort, no crowd to hide within, and no one to shield you from the internal struggles that naturally arise during any journey of growth. Instead of running away, you learn to sit with your fears, to analyze them, and to dismantle them piece by piece. You begin to understand that fear is not the enemy, but rather a signal, a call to grow, to confront something important, to take a leap. The more you face it alone, the more power you gain over it. Eventually, what once paralyzed you becomes a mere whisper in the background of your determination. Doubt too loses its grip over time. The first few steps taken without reassurance may feel unstable, but with each forward movement, confidence grows. You realize that certainty isn't always a prerequisite for progress, that you can keep moving even when the outcome is unclear. This kind of self-belief, born in solitude, becomes unshakable. It teaches you that failure doesn't define you, and that success, built on your own terms, is far more meaningful than anything handed to you. Every time you rise after stumbling, you build emotional armor, and that resilience every time you retorque for the Prussian, every time over time, this resilience against doubt and fear becomes a part of your identity. You stop waiting for the perfect conditions or external support to take action. Instead, you trust in your ability to handle whatever comes, knowing that you've already faced darkness alone and emerged stronger. You learn to rely on your instincts, to emerge discomfort, and to see challenges not as threats but as opportunities to evolve. This mental and emotional toughness, cultivated through solitary effort, becomes a quiet but powerful force, one that enables you to not only survive the storm, but to grow because of it. Throughout history, the individuals who have had the courage to walk alone have often been the ones to create lasting change. These people didn't wait for approval or follow trends. They followed an inner conviction, even when it meant standing apart from the crowd. Whether it was a visionary scientist, a revolutionary artist, or a bold social reformer, their willingness to take the lonely path allowed them to break new ground. Walking alone gave them the freedom to think independently, challenge the norm, and pursue what others considered impossible.
Stop sama laba-laba.
One thing, life has taught me that none can go without a trust of the Father, instinctive and important, a gentle Mia through me. Knowing that none can go without communication, and bringing in. Pioneers do not start their journey with the following. They often begin in silence, facing skepticism or even opposition. Yet they continue to move forward, driven not by recognition but by purpose. In this process, they unknowingly become leaders, not by title but by example. The very act of walking alone becomes a beacon for those who feel lost or unsure. It shows others that they, too, can take bold steps, trust their instincts, and build something original. These trailblazers prove that progress doesn't require a crowd. It requires courage, persistence, and the ability to remain steadfast when the world isn't watching. Moreover, walking alone cultivates a wisdom that can only be gained through personal struggle and self-reliance. This wisdom, once earned, is often passed on through teachings, mentorship, art, or innovation. The knowledge gained from solitary journeys becomes a source of strength for others. The lessons learned in isolation become roadmaps for those seeking direction. In this way, those who have walked alone are not only leaders but also givers, offering tools, ideas, and inspiration that can uplift and empower entire communities. Their personal trials become public triumphs, lighting the way for others to find their own paths. These individuals may not seek attention, but the impact of their solitary journey inevitably reaches far beyond themselves. What starts as a personal mission often evolves into a larger movement simply because one person dared to begin. Their courage challenges the status quo. Their success redefines what's possible, and their presence shows others that walking alone is not a path of weakness. It is a path of creation, transformation, and influence. As more people are inspired by these silent leaders, the lonely path becomes less lonely, and a new standard of authenticity, resilience, and purpose begins to emerge for all who follow. In the end, walking alone is not a path of isolation, but a journey of self-discovery, strength, and purpose. It is through solitude that we uncover our deepest truths, build unshakable resilience, and become leaders not by command but by example. Though the road may feel lonely at times, it is also where clarity is found, where greatness begins, and where the seeds of lasting impact are planted. So if you find yourself walking alone, do not be discouraged. Embrace it. Because in choosing to walk alone, you are choosing to walk toward the highest version of yourself.